Good morning and welcome to the program Perspectives on Victor 98.9. This morning on the program. Hello, good morning once again. Welcome to the program Perspectives. And the program today, we shall all again be moving to, the political arena where a lot of infighting, so to say, is going on. And this, again, would be, settled on the table of the EFCC, what is playing out. Ibrahim Magu, acting chairman of the EFCC, has come under a lot of criticism, rightly or wrongly. That's what we'll just, how to start it, rightly or wrongly. And now we all know that it's day 4 of the investigation of the presidential panel into Ibrahim Magu as the acting chairman of the EFCC, and we have, of course, Justice Ayo Salami, presiding over as the chairman of the presidential task force, investing Ibrahim Magu his activities since he came on board as the acting chairman of the EFCC. Now, we'd like to go back, and going back means the mandate given by, the president then, or, that set up the EFCC, going back to President Olusegun Obasanjo, first time around in 1999. And in 2003, the EFCC was set up, and it had a mandate. And, of course, the mandate, centered around ridding Nigeria of economic and financial crimes, and what had to do with domestic and international, and of course the name that Nigeria had gotten to itself, especially on the international scene. It was turning out to be that Nigeria was even going to be a pariah nation, so to say, with some of the things that was coming out of the nation. But with the EFCC, a lot of things changed. And we've seen chairmen of this agency from Nuhu Ribadu. We went on to Farida Waziri, to Ibrahim Lamode, and of course having Ibrahim Magu on board now. But again, what has come out? And this again is coming out from the Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation, and the accusations that have been leveled against the acting chairman of the EFCC, and that's why today is under investigation. Day 4 of investigation of Ibrahim Magu. I'm bringing in this morning a barrister at law and again a public affairs analyst to be looking at it. We're looking at the mandate of the EFCC so far, what it has come up with, and of course be looking at some of the challenges, of course, and centering it around the present administration with one of its cardinal focus of fighting corruption and having again the arrowhead of the fight against corruption under investigation. My guest this morning by phone is Barrister Akubu El-Zubai, is barrister at law and of course public affairs analyst. Will be sharing thoughts with me this morning. Barrister El-Zubai, good morning and glad to have you on the program.
It's a great pleasure, sir. Good morning.
Yes. Well, I'd like to go back, and then going back would mean that, looking at the mandate of the EFCC when the Obasanjo administration, came up with it in 2003, with, the chairman then, Nuhu Ribadu, a cop, that was said to be a no-nonsense cop as at that time. And what it had gone through. Let's just take a look, of an overview of the EFCC when it was set up, and then we begin to come into where we are with it now.
Long before 1999, Nigeria had become notorious for being a corruption estate, where most of Nigerian leaders were fingered, especially in the laundering of Nigerian funds. Money they stole from the coffers of government were laundered especially into Western Europe and America. By 1999, Nigeria's financial fortune in terms of laundering had reached an alarming stage, such that now Nigerian leaders were no longer laundering Nigeria's money to Europe and America, but they were even taking it to Asia. By the year 2001, Nigerians, and especially some governors, were fingered by the Obasanjo regime. in their acts of building refineries, universities, and other institutions that they failed to build for their people, but they were now building it in foreign countries. Building refineries when Nigerian refinery was not working, building universities when ASU was always on strike, building hospitals when they could not even maintain healthcare system in their state. Disturbed by these things, and Obasanjo, he is a member of the eminent persons group.
Yes.
So he had the ears and the privileges of meeting most of Western European leaders. And he was very popular in the world because of the role he played, especially during the apartheid regime. And the fact that he handed over government to a democratically elected government willingly. So most of the Western leaders were collaborating with Nigeria, especially the Nigerian police, in dealing with these issues. Then the idea of the economic and financial crimes came up, which was set up by the Obasanjo regime. And he sent in an executive order, which became a law in 2004. And the EFCC Act was signed by the president, which became a law in that year. The Act provides that those to be appointed as chairman will be police officers from the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police. But that is the discretion of the president to make such an appointment and then forward it to the National Assembly for confirmation. The EFCC also has a governing council, which is to be appointed by the president, and then the administrative structure. But the mandate of the EFCC was to squarely fight financial crimes, especially as they pertain to stealing money from government and then laundering money to other countries from Nigeria. The appointment of Nuhu Ribadu was a blessing to the EFCC because it gave it a clear impetus which made it to take off on a very good stand. Nuhu Ribadu took his work seriously and he had that integrity even among the police officers because he was respected. And then his work earned him a lot of accolades in the 1 year that he was on saddle because it became clear that most of the anti-corruption agencies in Western Europe, in America and in Asia were now cooperating with Nigerian authorities to fish out those people that are indicted in financial crimes. So EFCC became popular not only within Nigeria, but even outside its shores. But the problem arose with the leadership of the EFCC. There are issues that are tied to the EFCC leadership. Being a police officer, the EFCC chairman must exhibit some form of loyalty to the police authorities and especially to the Inspector General of Police, whose appointment was sought before he was appointed as chairman of the EFCC. Then the president and all power blocks in the presidency, those power blocks are interested in every financial crime that is going on in the country, and they have people that they want to make as sacred cows, and they will not like such people to be touched. And so the EFCC chairman must exhibit some form of loyalty to those power blocks in the presidency. Then there's the Attorney General of the Federation. The Attorney General of the Federation under the Act is to oversee the activities of the EFCC and also to provide the legal framework and legal personnel for the work that the EFCC will do. So this tripartite loyalty makes the EFCC chairman a little bit confused because he has to dance to the tunes of all these people in terms of his loyalty, and that is his own doing.
Yes, this tripartite arrangement where loyalty will go first and foremost to the president of the country. We're talking about, the background of it when it all started. And also we'll go to the Inspector General of Police, from where, of course, the EFCC chairman would be also confirmed. And also to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation. Now, in the course of carrying out its duties, it has been said, again, public analysts would say that EFCC itself, had gone out of its mandate by, having selective justice or carrying out his duties with selective touch in it, and so this has taken away some of the powers that the EFCC would have. Selective justice with the EFCC. What are your thoughts on this?
The same accusation that Magu is facing today are similar as accusations that Lamorde faced. There are also similar accusations that Farida Waziri had, and the same allegations that the pioneer EFCC chairman Nuhu Ribadu faced. Because of those loyalties I have raised, some people in the presidency will not like certain people or the EFCC to go after certain people. And that was exactly what happened during Nuhu Ribadu days. First of all, he had a running battle with people in the presidency because there were some people that some power blocks in the presidency never wanted to see them indicted or even punished. And so they began to accuse him of the fact that he was going after party bigwigs, and that in spite of the fact that the PDP was the ruling party, they insisted that he was trying to indict people who were in the party and their contribution to the party was imminent. But he was lucky as EFCC chairman because the president of the country, Olusegun Obasanjo, refused to agree to those things. He refused to take side with any of the power blocks in the presidency and insisted that Nuhu Ribadu was doing his work. He also insisted that there was no basis for him to sack Nuhu Ribadu or even to make him step aside. And despite the allegations that these people were raising against Nuhu Ribadu, President Obasanjo refused to agree and insisted that Nuhu Ribadu was doing his work. When Obasanjo finished his tenure and Umaru Musa became the president, these people became emboldened because powers have changed and the power blocks, new power blocks have emerged, and those power blocks are stronger. The Attorney General of the Federation at that time, Onduaka, had the ears of the president, and he was not favorable to Nuhu Ribadu. When he called some files, like the Malabu file, Nuhu Ribadu refused, and that made him an enemy to the EFCC. And he told the president, and those power blocks that were going for the neck of Nuhu Ribadu now became emboldened because Umaru Musa, while having problems and issues with his health, also left the presidency for some people to decide. And so those power blocks succeeded on what they did to Nuhu Ribadu. First, by sending him to NIPS. After sending him to NIPS, after his course at NIPS, they even disgraced him. What happened was that his loyalty to these power blocks failed, especially during Umaru Musa. And the Attorney General of the Federation at that time, Onduaka, was not favorable to him. It was in the course of these skirmishes that they disgraced Nuhu Ribadu and brought in Farida Waziri. Farida Waziri continued with the work of Nuhu Ribadu, but the same allegations in a short time came over her. She insisted on the Malabu file and other investigations that were going on, especially for those governors that had finished their tenures in 1997. They were already indicted, and she insisted to go on with their cases. They made these power blocks in the presidency, and the Attorney General of the Federation was not favorable to her also, because the Attorney General at that time had the ears of those people in the presidency. Those power blocks in the presidency are so powerful that sometimes they can even decide your fate as a minister. They can decide your fate if you are holding any position, so long as they feel that you are not dancing to their tune. And so that was what happened to her. By indicting those ex-governors, they said that Farida Waziri was trying to destroy the party. And so what they did was to also disgrace her. But at that time, Umaru Musa was already late, and Goodluck Jonathan was the president. Goodluck Jonathan also needed these people because he felt that they were the ones that insisted that he was made the president of Nigeria. Unfortunately, she saw her sack on his Twitter handle. At that time, it was so unfortunate because the president did not heed to those calls that were made to him, that the governors, that the EFCC was probing, and others who were seen as party leaders at that time were people who were actually corrupt. And so they sacked him and brought in Lamorde. When Lamorde came, Adoke was the Attorney General. Adoke was the undoing of Farida, and he was already the Attorney General. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice had interest in cases that pertain to foreign partnership with Nigeria in terms of high finances and other agreements pertaining to oil and gas and other foreign investment issues. These were issues that were characterized by corruption. You remember the PID controversy that came up just some few months ago. These were deals struck during Adoke. You remember the Malabo deal, which was started during Obasanjo, which had not died because of the monumental scandals that were involved. Then those people in the country were also having deals, especially with government finances, and corruption had reached its height. The money for fighting Boko Haram and other insurgencies were no longer accounted for, and people were shipping money even in Nigeria. People were shipping money to foreign countries. In fact, they need not launder this money through banks again. They will take this money in aircrafts and were shuttling to European, Asian, and American capitals. So it became a very serious issue. But Lamorde, who was appointed as the EFCC chairman, cannot discountenance with the earlier cases started by his predecessor. And so, while dusting these files, he also became a victim of the things that caught up with those people who were on the chair before him. And then the elections was already here. By 2015, the buttons had changed. And the clarion call of the APC was to clean the stable of corruption. And so they needed a new EFCC chairman who had no link with the past. And that was why Lamorde had to go. When Magu came, President Muhammadu Buhari insisted that in the whole of Nigeria, there is nobody better to occupy the EFCC position as Ibrahim Ribadu. To him, Nuhi Ribadu will have been the most clean person with integrity, somebody that he saw in his own light, and somebody that you cannot talk against. Unfortunately, when he took his name to the National Assembly for confirmation, Ibrahim Magu already had some bad lots on him. The Police Service Commission had already indicted him for some offenses he had committed while he was acting as the operation director at the EFCC. Some files were missing, and some files were not accounted for, and some files were hidden. These issues came to Bona when the DSS gave its report to the National Assembly. Based on these reports and other things that pertain to his integrity, the National Assembly refused to confirm him and even protested when President Muhammadu Buhari gave some names for confirmation. What the National Assembly recommended at that time was for the president to sack the EFCC chairman. The reason being that he didn't have enough integrity to occupy that position. But Muhammadu Buhari stuck to his gun and insisted that Nuhu Ribadu must continue to serve.
Ibrahim Magu.
At the presidency, a new power bloc had emerged because in all powers, not only in Nigeria, even at the state government level all over the world, there are power blocks that control governors. There are power blocks that control the president. In Nigeria at that time, a new power block had come up, which we call the cabal. The cabal in the presidency was represented by a more powerful person who was even seen as the person running the country, the chief of staff to the president. So all allegations against Magu stopped at his table. Some of the allegations the president needed not to have seen even. So he always blocked every negative instincts and statements and actions against Magu because he felt that Magu belonged to a bloc in which all of them belong. In this bloc, there are also party bigwigs and there are also government officials who are in the presidency. The Attorney General of the Federation also played his role. The Attorney General of the Federation had some issues with Ibrahim Magu. First, there are files that he wanted Ibrahim Magu to take to the Federal Ministry of Justice because the Federal Ministry of Justice is the supervising ministry over EFCC. But Magu insisted that these files cannot be looked at because there are issues that have already been investigated. And so there was no need to look at them again at the Federal Ministry of Justice, that these are cases that will go on. You remember the Abdul Rashid Maina case and still the Malabo case and other cases like that. And so he set himself against those at the Federal Ministry of Justice, but specifically the Attorney General of the Federation. So when the Chief of Staff to the President died, it paved a way for most of the people who are Magu's enemies to now reach the President.
Okay, Barrister Abubakar Ezeubai, we'll have to go for a commercial break. I'll be back with you after the break.
Okay, sir.
We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Are you serious? For real, are you serious? Victor FM.
We're back on the program Perspectives this morning, and we're looking at the AFCC, its mandate, and of course the acting chairman, what he is going through. Barrister, I'd like to take you, into the life of this administration. When it came on board, one of its appeal, one of the areas it premised on was that it was going to fight corruption, to a standstill. It called it a monster that needed to be, fought, with all the powers that it had with it. And so having a chairman of the EFCC was also, one of the ways to deal with the issues of corruption in the country. And of course, since the administration and since the acting chairman came on board, we've seen areas where, the tremendous improvements had been made. We see governors in jail now. We see properties and monies being returned to the coffers of government. And all that was representing, this administration. For now, what the chairman may be going through, the acting chairman may be going through, would this not be, taking the gun and putting out the bullet on straight into the head of this administration, which had come to Nigerians that we will fight corruption? And what may likely come out of these cases? We see accusations that have been made about, selective justice with the EFCC, that money is not being accounted for, property is not being accounted for, and all of that, may be playing out. Now, for the consequences of these and the implications of it on the life of this administration, what are your thoughts on this?
President Muhammadu Buhari hinged his campaign right from 2003 when he ventured in his contest for the presidency on the fact that the main problem of Nigeria has been corruption. And so he is coming into politics to rid Nigeria of these corrupt tendencies of our political elites. That was the basis upon which he hinged his campaign, and I think that is the basis upon which most Nigerians voted for him in 2015. You will recall, sir, that across party lines, across ethnic groups, across regions, across religious feelings, most people came out because they believed that corruption was also the menace that was disturbing our country. And so they felt that in voting for General Muhammadu Buhari, it will help to tidy up issues and make Nigeria saner again. And that was why people, irrespective of their political parties at that time, irrespective of their tribal, sectional, religious, and regional leanings, they came out en masse and voted for him in 2015. When he came on board, people had that fear because President Muhammadu Buhari had already been head of state and they saw how he handled the affairs of Nigeria, especially in dealing with people who were thought to have sabotaged the economic prospects of Nigeria. And so, but for the first 6 months that he was on saddle, people were already afraid that things will happen to them unless they change their ways. And in that period, people brought money when even they were not asked to bring to the coffers of the federal government, saying that these were corruption, these were proceeds of corruption. And so government began to take money even before the EFCC started acting. Those who were awarded contracts started doing the contract jobs even before the president got to work. But a year after he was on the saddle, some people even regretted why they gave out those monies, because they saw that by the acts of government officials and the way politics was going in Nigeria in the administration, it appeared that it was business as usual. The EFCC had done its best, because the EFCC went after those people who were petitioned and whose properties were clearly outlined. EFCC was able to go after them, and EFCC was able to make significant recoveries. EFCC was also able to unearth some actions of the Nigerian elites, wherein they will build sockaways or water tanks in their farms and then hide looted funds. EFCC had done a lot in this period, but that did not stop corruption in Nigeria, because the political ruling elites, even from the federal government level up to the state level, were still living their ostentatious lives. They were living styles, they were living they were having lifestyles that were ostentatious. They did not change anything, and government money was still being looted. Now, the fight against corruption cannot be said to be totally unsuccessful, but the clarion call and the clamor and the aspiration and wishes of Nigerians have not been fulfilled, because corruption still strives in government. If you take, for example, the report of the Auditor General of the Federation, which was released last 2 weeks, he said that in the report of 2017 alone, the federal government has been unable to track down about 300 billion naira, which the Auditor General said were either stolen or they were misappropriated. So by this report alone, you can see that in the federal government of Nigeria, looting is still going on. Then look at the activities of some government officials that were indicted in corruption cases. Take, for example, the action of the former secretary to the government of the federation. Take, for example, the actions of some ex-governors that just left office in 2019, and the things that are coming out of their rulership. So you can see that corruption is still going on. The implication for this is that Nigerians no longer have confidence to fight against corruption, despite the monumental achievement of the EFCC. You can also recall that by the indictment of the EFCC chairman, it will mean that the hunter is being hunted and the gateman can no longer be trusted, even though these are allegations that have not yet been proved. People now cast aspersions not only on the EFCC but even on the government itself.
Okay.
Then take our image in the international community. The EFCC has been collaborating with other anti-corruption agencies all over the world, including the Interpol. These people may not cooperate immediately until they take stock of who is appointed in the EFCC again and what seriousness he will come with it. These are immediate implications for the country. Then for the justice system, it will be seen whether they can be able to tackle these issues effectively, and whether even if the EFCC chairman goes to court, whether he will have a fair hearing. These implications will be the immediate ones. There will be far-reaching implications in future, but these have not been seen yet. It will unfold itself with time.
Okay, Professor Femi Odekunle, representing the Presidential Advisory Committee on corruption and all of that, PACAC, and coming out to say that is power blocks that are involved in these, and again said that we should trend whether this was coming from the Ministry of Justice on how this plays out. Now, when you look at that and you look at the person of the EFCC, acting chairman, who is of course in all of these. Are we saying is there likelihood to look at a situation where the power blocks are really out to get to at the EFCC acting chairman, and of course again to settle scores, especially knowing that very high personalities are involved in all of these. Properties have been seized, monies have been taken unaccounted for, and this is time to unleash their own powers on the acting chairman.
Yes, these power blocks, as we have been mentioning, are very, very imminent and powerful, especially in the presidency. But you see, if you are occupying a position and you have somebody in the presidency who has the ears of the president and who can protect your interests all the time, then you can always go back home and sleep. And that was the position that Magu was facing. Despite the stiff opposition from the corrupt political establishment, he had one person in the presidency who will not allow the president to even see those things that were being complained of. And then, if the president had those things, the person will ensure that the president does not act on those things. Now he is no longer available. That is why they have come after him completely. You know that the EFCC, and we have said it several times, that what they needed to have done was to fully investigate an issue before they go to the press. Unfortunately, the EFCC sometimes go to the press before they go back and look for evidence. And that was what exactly happened to the EFCC chairman. You recall that with the coronavirus pandemic, he said that there's a lot of corruption in the funds that had been spent on this corona. He also complained that the school feeding program by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs will be investigated. Then he also told the press that he will fully investigate the corona funds that are being spent in Nigeria, and then the humanitarian claim that school children are being fed at home. If you take the money in the calculation of the federal government, you will see that these monies in this corona pandemic had already surpassed 3 trillion. How many people have benefited from these funds, and how far are they go, and how far can they go to protect their interests? So with his pronouncements, it now became clear that if the EFCC is to investigate these issues and other issues that are being investigated, a lot of people who we see with integrity and who are close to the president may be affected. So with the absence of Abba Kyari, they now went after him completely, and they were able to succeed because the new chief of staff does not bar you from seeing the president. And so when the attorney general came with his allegations, it was a free passage for him to see the president and issues in.
Okay, Barrister, look at this other area again. The AFCC
protects Ibrahim Magu.
All right, Barrister.
Okay, yes, sir.
I'm running. Time is not just too friendly with me, and I have so many issues to take on. Again, I want to look at the judiciary in all of these too. Recall again that the EFCC had at one time not been, careful with the judiciary. It had come on the judiciary, and again, we're saying again that Ibrahim Magu, as it is now, may just be left in the cold. And look at Justice Ayo Salami, who is the chairman of this presidential, committee to look into the case. And all of this, when it's playing out, could it be said at this time that Ibrahim Magu is on his own?
At the moment, yes, he's on his own, because the president has already made it clear he can no longer be able to sustain that support for him. With these allegations, even if President Muhammadu Buhari wanted to sustain that support, he cannot, because Even President Muhammadu Buhari is now along in this, but he cannot protect Magu. And then Ayo Salami was brought in because they wanted some form of integrity for this presidential investigation panel. They didn't want to take him to court straight because the issues have not yet been investigated, and the Attorney General of the Federation had his own hidden agenda. Those agenda are not known yet, but you can see that when he went to see Muhammadu Buhari, he even raised the issue of who will succeed the EFCC chairman when the matter had not come up. And that is not the prerogative for the Attorney General. It is the prerogative of the President. But you can see that he was running faster than he should. So when it gets to the judiciary, we need not worry, because the judiciary, I believe, and I see it, that they will be fair to him. They will have to listen to all sides. They will give him all that he needs in terms of fair hearing, and they will take a definite step on that. They will take a stance. If each of the parties, if any of the parties will not be satisfied, it will be tested at the appellate courts up to the Court of Appeal. But our prayers is that the Nigerian political elites should be patriotic to the country. Let them stop laundering these funds to other countries. Let them look at Nigeria and the prospects of Nigerians as great people. Let them work tirelessly for the development of our country. Let them not bring self-interest. Let them not be nepotic. Let them not be selfish. Let them take the country as their constituency and work tirelessly, patriotically for the interests of Nigerians.
And it's pertinent that I asked this question at this point. The 8th Assembly, the number of times that Ibrahim Magu's name had been submitted to, the 8th Assembly, and it had rejected it based on reports it got that Magu himself could not be seen as a clean person. Are we vindicating the 8th Assembly in refusal, to have Magu as his chairman then?
Everybody in Nigeria knows that the 8th Assembly has been vindicated. And I believe that wherever Bukola Saraki will be now, and I think Yakubu Dogara, they will be looking, their faces will be looking radiant, and they will be saying, didn't we tell you? They will continue to be saying, didn't we tell you? And they stand vindicated, because whether you like them or not, whether you like whether you like the style of their leadership in these issues pertaining to the confirmation of the chairman of the EFCC, they stand vindicated. And their vindication was not born out of personal interest, but based on the report of the DSS, which is the government secret service. So I feel that the 8th Assembly has been vindicated on these issues. Only that people will bring in their personal opinions. They will think that those things were not right simply because there were running battle between the legislature and the executive. In real terms, the 8th Assembly in these issues have been vindicated.
Okay, Barrister, please stay on the line. I have to take some few calls into the program. Just stay on the line. Numbers to call to be part of this program: 081 40,000 989, 081 40,000 989, or 070 87 800 989, 070 87 800 989. Take your calls now. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Barrister Elizabeth. Kure is the name.
All right,
honestly, Barrister have spoken very well. Toloi, please permit me, let me have Barrister number after he might have left the studio or wherever he is. He has spoken very well. And these are the type of people that we want. Magu has done his best. Another Magu will come in. All we want fair judgment. Let him face the music. In as much as he was collecting, looting, allegedly. If he's found wanting, he should go to he should face the music of the land.
Okay.
Secondly, I'm expecting if there is that chance, they should bring Rule Ribado, because that man has done a lot in this country. Thank you for giving me this.
All right, Kuri. Okay, we'll thank you on that. Take another call. Take more calls. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Toyin.
Good morning.
Yes, Fresh is my name.
Let's hear you.
Yes, I really commend the Barrister, and I want to chip in here. You see, when we look at the system that we are running in this country, I don't know where we got it wrong, actually, because the president is being surrounded by people that I think they are not helping him, or they are not even telling him the truth. If not, right from the 8th assembly, some of this issue would have been tackled. And maybe this man would have not faced this type of disgrace by now if some of this information we are able to get across to the president at that time. Possibly he would have not gotten to this stage that we are today. And I want to advise again that please let the president, whoever that will come on board, must it be that one-sided either of religion or of region that must be appointed as EFCC chairman. I want to advise that let it be that we have people from the south, east, west, and other places that can also, that are even senior police officers that can handle. If it must be a police officer that must be the chairman, let somebody from those regions and other religions also have a taste of this office. And let people also be first. So thank you.
Thank you, Fresh. We'll take one more and then come back to our guest. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Simon Mamza.
Simon Mamza.
Yeah, you are
Simon Mamza. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. Actually, I'm very much impressed with your guest. And the man that he invited 2 days ago, that's the Secretary General of New Party. These 2 people will be cut guests. In fact, we really need people like this. And more especially you also, the uncle and the producer. Well done. More to your elbow. I am very much pleased.
Thank you very much, Simon Mamza. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let me come to you, Barrister. 3 callers on that we had on the line. Kuri was saying that let justice, be done, and Fresh, came from this angle that whoever may turn out to be the next EFCC chairman, that can we be looking at the divides of Nigeria and not centering it on whether this will come from one particular block as it has always been coming from. Can we look at other divides of the country, take away religion and all of that? And Simon Mamza too was with it that Nuhu Ribadu had made a record, had a stand, and he had done well, and we should consider those that are put in their thoughts on having the best for as EFCC chairman.
Yes, all of them have raised significant issues because federal character in Nigeria is a very powerful issue, and people must look at their place of origin. People must look at their religion. People sometimes look at their tribes. People will always take a stance looking at these issues. These are realities in an African's life. An African will first look at these issues before he look at the overall. Now, if you look at the history of the EFCC and the establishment, what plays out is that those who are directors of operation in the EFCC usually emerge as chairman. It is only Farida and Nuhu Ribadu that do not have stint in those offices. But Lamorde was director of operations. So also Magu. You can see that the present director of operation of the EFCC is the one acting. If the president is satisfied with him, he may appoint him. The truth is that tribes, religions, sections, geographic locations, if there are good governance and people hold the trust in which they are entrusted by the people that appoint them, these things will not be relevant in our lives. When Yakubu Gowon was the head of state in Nigeria, people never raised these issues because he dispensed at the federal level, especially in terms of appointment. He dispensed the system with justice, such that you will not hear the cry of nepotism or tribalism or religious sentiment from anybody. But time has eroded those virtues, and the current political elites do things according to their dictates. Even if they are appointing people, they appoint their children and their friends. If there is any position to be occupied, they call their children or their friends. If there's anything to be done for the government in terms of contract, they call their friends or their brothers. That is why Nigerians are wary of everybody that is appointed to a certain position. But we are praying for a time when Nigerians will look at the country entirely and see that people who are good in character, people who are good in merit, people who deserve to be appointed, irrespective of their religious, irrespective of their ethnic, irrespective of their geographic location, will be the people that will occupy certain positions.
Okay.
Federal character is instituted in our constitution, and in appointing people, the president and the various state governors should look at those things and appoint people of integrity based on these balances as contained in the federal character.
All right, let me just squeeze in this last call staring at me. You're my last caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Toyanagi.
Good morning.
I agree, Sir El-Zubair. My name is
Musa Bala.
One good thing is that Magu have kept the Shomali issue aside from politics. Whatever the allegation of Magu, my conclusion is that he's the finest officer that ever headed EFCC. We have seen seizure of a lot of money, a lot of property. A private jet was recently seized from Malobu. We have seen a lot of bank accounts with heavy billions of naira. Nobody is trying to make claim to it. We have seen a lot of property abundant. Nobody is trying to make claim to it simply because Magu's intelligent evil eye of investigation have really worked. Magu have done his best, and he's an accused person now. Let's see what the investigation will finally go.
Okay.
And I think some people are having some break now, even though we have some people that are saying that money collected, for example, from patient Jonathan should be back to her.
All right.
For the simple reason that nobody complain money is missing elsewhere.
Okay.
It seems a lot of us are out still to celebrate corruption and to fight corruption.
Okay. Musa Bala, we thank you on that. Barrister Abubakar El-Zubair, you got Musa Bala, or could I just stress on some of the points he raised?
Yes, I heard him.
Okay.
And I aligned with him, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That Ibrahim Magu may just be one of the best that we've had as the EFCC chairman in terms of recoveries that have been made, in terms of sending corrupt officials, governors, and all the likes in prison, and of course recovered properties of government, and of course his fight against corruption.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your last line, Barrister, before we just wrap up.
Nigeria is a great country, and Nigerians are very good people. In fact, Nigerians are one of the most resilient people in the world. While praying that God will endow us with leaders that are patriotic and will look to our plights, we call on the present generation of leaders to change their ways. Let them reverse their bad ways and get the country on track. I also pray that Muhammadu Buhari will choose the best person for the EFCC job, so that we can have a good relationship with the international anti-corruption agencies in Europe, in America, in Asia, and all other countries.
And on that note, thank you, Barrister Abubakar El-Zubair, for coming on the program. We thank you.
It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And that's about the size of it on the program Perspectives. This morning, we had Barrister Abubakar El-Zubair, barrister at law, and also a public affairs analyst, sharing thoughts with us on the EFCC and, of course, the travels of Ibrahim Magu, acting chairman. We'll come back with Perspectives on Monday. It's a weekend. Have a fantastic weekend, and Morpheus Wisdom. Thank you for connecting us with the people. Good morning.